I'm going to pass over to Lucy before I totally chalk any more gibberish, because my energy levels have just gone. So, welcome, Lucy.
So my job now is to summarise everything that has happened in the whole of today and give you a call to action in about the next 20 minutes. So is my timer on? It's on. Okay, so we've been talking today about people and technology, a symbiotic relationship. We've challenged your perceptions, we've provided essential takeaways and given you plenty of valuable insights. I know that because that's what it said in the promo material, so I pre-prepared that. With our new chair, Simone, who's done a marvellous job, and our stalwart, Martin. And our stalwart Martin Pickard online, a symbiotic relationship of the two of them in itself. Martin, wearing glasses in front of a bookcase, is 27% more employable than he was when I chatted to him on Teams the other day. So well done, Martin. I generally find if I want to prepare for a conference like this, the best way to do it is to watch all the episodes of Black Mirror, and that will tell you what's going to happen. But we did think last year in the call for actions, what problems are technology trying to solve? When you're looking at technology, who will benefit? How will being human add value? And is it people and technology or people versus technology? So these were some of the things I was hoping were going to come out today, which I think have. And I think a lot of the technology we've seen at previous of these conferences has been a lot about things and buildings and equipment, and we've had a bit of that today, but most of it today was about technology and people, and that is something that we haven't really talked about very much before, so that was really interesting, wasn't it? So we started off with our welcome from Simone. The future of work is human. It's all about people powered by technology, underpinned by data and connected through purpose. That set the scene really for the day, talking about the rest of the things that we were going to cover. And then we opened with our keynote from Catherine Harvey from Unwork. How should we think about the future? She said it was all about understanding, curating and measuring experience. And thinking about that return to work, how much of it is going to be mandated, how much are we going to magnetise and draw people in. She said that 2024 would be the year of the experience and that we would need to move in our measurement from looking at return on investment to looking to the return on the experience, taking into consideration new roles and new technologies. We had Leanne Lynch from ISS talking about navigating the future of FM in a digitally driven environment. She talked about selecting the right technology to support the culture and the people. We're already digitally driven, selecting the technology that suits us personally. We looked at the Service Point patient wellbeing app, using data to improve experience in a really personal way. And then a little visual there of a building on a page, which is the sort of holy grail for us as facilities managers, isn't it? Pulling all the data together into one spot. And also our online guest, I think, had some trouble with her examples of how you might give commands to Alexa as all of their lights went out in their houses. We followed that up with David Sharp. We the people should declare our agency, shouldn't we? David doesn't think people and technology are symbiotic at all, and here's the sort of note of caution in all of this. Wasn't it interesting to think that this technology is slick, but it has a huge impact? Be careful if you think that technology is going to solve climate change when you look at the impact of some of the production and support of those technologies. And I don't know whether you remember in 2022 when we had Georgia Elliott-Smith here from Element 4 talking about sustainability. She said if something seems smooth or cheap, someone somewhere is paying the price, and that goes for this sort of technology as well. And then we started to look at some of that personality profiling. Is it cool or is it sinister? You decide. We came next on to the Technology and FM Award. It is one of my favourite days of the year. We had 5 brilliant entries this year. It was really, really fun and interesting to judge. And we also did manage to get Matt Chapman back into the room because he'd gone out to make a phone call just before the winners were announced. So we managed to bring him back through the use of technology and people. Well, I texted Dave Horrell and said, get Matt Chapman back in now. It was a really impressive use of technology to help their frontline teams keep in touch and find things out, whatever their mother tongue is. And that is a challenge for all of us with operational teams, isn't it? If you want to make people feel a part of something, the first step is being able to communicate with them, and where you can have that language recognition and lip-synced discussions and chatbots in your own language, that is going to make you feel more connected. And so I know they talked about something else in their presentation just now, but it's worth having a look at that technology, because that's the sort of thing that is really going to help us connect with our people. After that, we had Lara Alansari and Brad Taylor from AWA talking about the impact of AI shaping roles at work. That was interesting for me, because I have been running training courses for the workplace evolutionaries with Brad for years, but I'd never actually met him before. So we made that connection through technology, and then we met face to face. They were talking about the 5 key AI technologies that are going to have an impact: machine learning, natural language processing, computer vision, robotics, and deep learning. They are the big 5 that we need to understand and learn a bit more about. They were asking us to think about how we evolve our cultures and leadership for the new AI-developed world. So what as a person do you need to do with the technology? And they talked about their AI readiness tool, with those factors that look at how well your workplace is going to be able to implement those things. So that's going to be quite interesting as well. And I think they had a shout out, didn't they, for people to come and be a part of that study as well. And then we had Tim from Engage Talent. That was a great presentation, wasn't it? What are the quotes of the conference? I reckon you won't be replaced by AI, but you might be replaced by someone who knows what it is. But isn't it interesting to think about what is driving AI? And this would come back perhaps to David Sharp's session as well, that where the ether is full of opinions as well as full of facts, how can you be certain that something that is drawn from loads and loads of information is drawn from data, and that when you are looking at things that you think are data-driven, is it fact or is it opinion? That's a note of caution there as well. And he was saying, be realistic about how exciting these conversations would actually be to people who are cleaning a building in Slough, and that when we're talking about our employee value propositions and having these grand visions about the digital environment and AI and the rest of it, a lot of our work is still operational people doing operational things in a building, which is where it kind of loops back to some of the case studies we saw in the afternoon. Just before lunch, we had Linda House-Marnis from IWFM. That's your professional institute there, driving change forward for you in the sector. So the big questions there really are the skills shortage in FM remains a challenge, and we want to make facilities management a career of choice. Is the IWFM, as your professional institute, supporting and driving and leading on that? You decide. After lunch, we had David Howarth, colleague experience lead at BP, talking about meeting people's needs in the workplace. There's a financial business case to creating a positive workplace experience. It makes you money, it gives you a competitive edge. Employees have a much higher expectation from their employers though now, so you've got to think much more carefully about what you do to create that positive workplace experience. Workplace sitting in people and culture now, as it does in so many organisations, where it used to be, FM, and it sat in kind of operations, and it was considered a cost centre, a cost sink, wasn't it? That now it's starting to be seen by the business as an area that is bringing value and helping to create that culture and drive the organisation forward in big organisations like BP and later, like we saw in Sky. Our next case study was Mark Hill from Sodexo, talking about delivering digital transition. The challenge as ever is how to make data into actionable insights. And he talked a little bit about outcome-focused KPIs that start to quantify some of these qualitative elements, and that's an area that it would be useful to drill down in a bit more, wasn't it? But he also raised that challenge of if you're looking at information around something like productivity, and that technology is going to help you with productivity. Are organisations going to use it to enhance productivity, or are they going to use it to report on productivity and monitor who's logged on and who's working and how many words they've written and that sort of thing? Because bear in mind, we're all talking here about inspiring, fantastic uses of technology, but if we'd given you a different topic and said, give some examples of sinister uses of technology in your organisation, you might say, well, I don't know any about mine, but I've seen lots in other organisations, and so it's not necessarily going to be a force for good. It's like anything else. What we do with it is up to us. Next, we had the case study from James Graham at Equans using AI and the IoT to transform the world of energy and services. So, do you know what I thought was interesting in that? January 2024 was the 8th month in a row that was the warmest of that month on record. So, don't tell me that there isn't a climate emergency. He looked at physical risks for the UK infrastructure, including location-specific climate risk analysis. And I thought, well, this is interesting, isn't it? You can only really start looking at workplace experience after you've looked at workplace resilience. And that all the things that we've talked about at the top of that kind of Maslow's pyramid of fancy things you can do with technology are not going to be very good if a problem is still going to be, is my building going to flood? Can I have some technology to help me look at that first before I look at anything else? We looked at their smarter technology, already using AI to underpin some of their projects. And then we had Paul Bullard from SFG20 using technology to make buildings safe. This is another presentation that is around things rather than people, but of course you can't look after the people if you don't look after the things. He talked about digitally driven maintenance, and that can be really effective, but he did touch on the fact that human-created data is quite fallible, and we already have lots of data that we don't use properly or at all. And certainly in my team's day job as consultants, people have already got loads of technology they don't use properly and loads of data that never becomes knowledge and actionable insights and just sits in a great big pile. And then we come in and say, you know, what information do you have? And then they land a load of information on us and we say, what do you think it means? Oh, we don't know. Maybe you can tell us what it means. And so he's saying start with the end in mind. What is your building for? This drives your risks and your priorities and helps you decide between the must-do, the should-do and the can-do. And that would really link not just to maintenance of assets, but to all of the other decisions you might make as a facilities manager as well. We then had the team from ServiceWorks talking about how converging technologies shape user experience. And they were looking at technology solutions to support people. How smart can you make your buildings? Particularly given that we talked, and Simone said this morning, reminded us that 80% of the 2050 building portfolio that we will be living in is already here. If 96% of the current built environment is existing buildings, then you don't just want to think about those 4% of buildings that can be built from scratch with the technology in there. It is fascinating to see how to put a digital twin together in a building that isn't a new building. So that little video case study of the station, I think is more impressive than showing a digital twin of a building that is only just being built, because really the retrofitting and the adaptation of the buildings that we already have and the use of technology in those buildings is far more likely to be the way we're going to be spending a lot of our time than it is really going into the kind of sexy, fantastic new buildings, isn't it? So realistically, we need to know a little bit more about what can happen with the built environment that is already here. We then moved on to the case study at Sky with Diana Foxley and Beverly Winrow from Mighty. Sky cares about work, connect and thrive as the things that they're looking for from their spaces, as they call their workplace. And their 2024 challenges are expectations, metrics that drive decisions, and sustainability and net zero. Diana said we need to help people use our spaces optimally. And we can't achieve the goals that we want to, including improving customer experience, without using that enabling technology to drive us forward. And it's interesting because you think about Sky of their end products being very high tech, but every organisation still has its buildings and its workspaces to look after, and you've still got to think about the customer experience there. I'll be looping back round to that. We had Maura Ortelli next from 1440 talking about cobotics in FM. And it all started to come together in quite a themed way, almost as if Elliot had planned it like that. Who would have thought that these presentations would go so well together? So what are cobots and how do they work with our frontline workforce? And generally, we know that cobots are going to do mundane, repetitive tasks or things that are heavy-duty, dangerous, dirty, or expensive. So if you've got anything that involves those sorts of tasks, that's going to be the area that you're most likely to get a really immediate benefit from using a robot instead. And we looked at a floor cleaning robot that is 4 times more productive than a person. So that's also a way to address the recruitment crisis, isn't it? As well as a more consistent quality approach. But what I thought was interesting is that for robots, looking human is less useful than being human. And we don't quite know yet what the psychology is of working together and how we are going to live with these cobots and how much they're going to do for us and how we're going to need to support our teams working alongside technology in the same way that we had to think about. I mean, I'm old enough to remember that we would go into maintenance departments and say to them, you're not going to have a paperwork ticket anymore, you're going to have to download it on an app. And the amount of support we had to give with people to say, it's okay, you'll be able to do this, you'll be able to use this thing in your hand and it's going to be all right. We are going to have to support people on these technology journeys because this is going to be new stuff for people. They won't have come across it before. They'll be as uncomfortable as they have been with all the other technology. And then later they'll be as comfortable with it. But we do need to understand that we've got to take our people on that journey. And then we had award winners, Matt Chapman and Kelly Dolphin from SBFM, talking about the role of technology in people's strategy. What does human-centric really mean? Because a lot of people talked about it a lot, and nobody's just a cleaner. What is their story? What's the story of your FM people, and how can you unlock their potential? I like the fact that they're very realistic at SBFM about the fact that people might leave. And so they're saying, well, stay and grow or leave with a positive experience, and that's okay as well. We know that people are going to leave us. Can we take advantage of that and help build a talent pool for some of our clients and say, look, we've got some great people. They could become a personal trainer in your gym or, you know, come and work somewhere else in your organisation. We all know that happens in FM. So actually, why not just say, yeah, that happens. This is how we're going to deal with that. This is how we're going to address it. We'll get them ready to move on. And then they'll leave and they'll say that was a great company and more people will come. They talked about the SBFM Evolve approach with those videos as well, the Pure Gym partnership. It is really impressive, and I think also the fact that rather than them saying this is our competitive advantage, they're saying this is the right thing to do, we want to share it, come and talk to us if you want to find out more. Very positive message there as well. And then we finished up with Kieran Mackey and Kelly Wessel talking about the case study at London Zoo, and we were all waiting for that, weren't we? Really interesting case study about a fascinating, unique site. And a good illustration of how to think about all of your stakeholders, even if they are gorillas and penguins, as well as staff, visitors, volunteers and scientists. And again, if you think about the fact that you've got to use your imagination, I thought the thing that really came out of that case study was the imaginative use of CCTV to do more than they originally thought it was, which was to kind of keep people safe and stop people breaking things and trying to get at the animals. Because if you think about how remote monitoring is really intrusive for humans, actually for the animals, it gives them more privacy and more quiet time. And so actually remote monitoring is a very positive experience for the animals, and it also creates a more positive experience for humans if we can still see the animals when they go backstage. It's not backstage, is it? That's not the word. You know what I mean. What was the word? Back of house. Back of house. I think of it as backstage, you know, because they're only there for the show, aren't they? So that was the presentations. I think I'm doing all right on time so far.
19 minutes and
2 seconds, you're good.
Oh God, okay. So I've got some thanks, and it's quite a long list, and I might miss people off, but I'll try not to. I'm going to thank, first of all, our speakers. Don't clap in between all the thanks, otherwise I'll run out of time. I'm going to thank our 2 chairs, Simone and Martin. Thank you very much, both of you. Super job. Makes it easier for everybody else, doesn't it? The IFM Net team who organise it, David, Elliot, Dave, and all the technical support as well. Thank you for that. Our sponsors, of course, without which this wouldn't be able to happen. You, the audience, whether in this room or dialing in remotely. I hope you've had a good day. It's been really interesting. Remotely, you'll just have to raise an imaginary glass of wine, because that's one thing we haven't bridged yet. We will have a real glass in a minute. I'm going to have more than one. I don't know about you. I'd like to thank the venue and the support team. And anyone else I didn't remember. And can I also remind you about our charity, Parkinson's UK, very close to all of our hearts. Martin mentioned a link to Penny running the marathon. Martin has also put it on his LinkedIn, if you're connected to Martin. And some of the rest of us will also push it out on our LinkedIn as well. So if you would like to support that, if you've had a good day and you feel like you've sort of, just want to put a bit of money to charity, that would be a great one to go for. So now we come to the calls for action. And this is the bit that I have to try and think of, depending on what's come out of the day. And so I've got 5 little points, really, that I'm going to come up with. I would say definitely one of the quotes of this conference is learn more about AI, because AI won't replace you, but you might well be replaced by somebody that knows what it is. So lots of information to go and find out. Lots of talks today. Loads of those talks had a QR code at the end of it, didn't they? So when you get the slides, you'll be able to download them. There'll be a white paper with loads of information in there. Or you can actually speak to a human and say, I liked your talk, give me some more information. And they might even give you, a brochure or a business card or something like that. Always a reminder at events like this that people work everywhere, not just in offices. So some of the things that we usually talk about are offices, but actually today we did talk about people that worked in lots of other places like hospitals and zoos and, TV technical support sites and that sort of thing. So we do really need to think about how technology can support all sorts of work, not just office work. And there's a question that you probably need to go away and think about for your homework. How do we use these tools that we've seen today to engage rather than alienate? I think that's the challenge, isn't it? What do we do to actually use these things to create connectivity, to create human contact, and create something that feels right rather than something that feels wrong? So I think my penultimate call to action loops us back to the video that David Sharp showed us. And that was really, the little old man with his special fork and his special walking stick. That's a perfect example of how technology that has been designed to help has actually alienated. So if you were looking at that video, I'd say go and cook a dinner and eat it with that man, and then go for a walk with that man so that he can use his technology and he can connect with people at the same time. And if you extrapolate what was happening in that video out to the sort of technology that you have in the workforce, if somebody is not going to have to spend as much time doing the floor scrubber because you've now got a robot that can do it 4 times as quickly, do you just send that person off to do something else? Or do you think, well, maybe they freed up a little bit of time to do something like have a little mental health toolbox talk or do a little bit of volunteering, have a break, talk to a human? What else can you do to take advantage of all the benefits that technology is bringing to increase connectivity and make those human contacts, listen to those human stories? Maybe you'll now have time to sit down with your cleaner and find out where she's from and how many kids she's got and how she's getting on with learning English and what she's planning to do when she gets here. And that's when you find out. I had a cleaner a while ago that said she was doing a PhD in T.S. Eliot and that she'd come to England from the Czech Republic because she just wanted to be able to read more of the books. And you're like, okay, brain. But it's that sort of thing that, we need to know about our cleaners. That guy that was working for Matt, the fact that he's now a leadership role in the company. I think we all know people like that all the way through our organisations, and we need to think about how to find them. And actually, if we're going to get all these productivity and efficiency benefits, a great thing to do with some of that time that you've saved is to find out a bit more about people and their stories and connect with them, because that's what being human-centric is all about. So I think I'm actually going to finish with a call to action that I've stolen from Simone, because she says this a lot. And it's not the don't be a dick, because I'm not going to say that. She says that a lot as well. And it's not going to be, I love my dog, and she says that a lot as well. I'm going to say, don't forget to be a human. And I think that probably is the call for action, that when you're going out thinking sexy technology, got to get that in my company, don't forget the human part of it as well, because that was a really critical part of today, was the technology and the human factors linking together. So this wasn't a conference about technology. It was about using the emerging technologies to enable us to become more human-centric. And I would say that the takeaway from that is, remember that we are humans, and what are all the things that we need and do and love that robots aren't going to be able to do. And with that, connect with some people over a glass of wine.